I hope you all enjoyed your lunch. Yeah? Good, good. So we're on to our, just the second half of our conference. So next person is actually a dear friend of mine. Dariusz and I started in technical support pretty at the same time. And at some point we split paths and he went into and remained in support. We came to the support manager, but he was always a fan of collaboration. He was always a fan speaking with other people, talking to other departments, and how to improve everything, how to improve every aspect of the company. So this is what he's going to talk about today: collaboration, specifically between dev and support. Give a round of applause for Dariusz, Rink.
Okay. First of all, thank you for coming. Not only to this presentation, but in general to this conference, because as we know, the money we collect will be given to the hospice, to the children. Yeah. So who am I? Rafa, thank you very much for introducing me. So you know that my name is Dariusz, and I work in technical support for almost 4 years now. And this gave me actually a lot of experience, and this experience is actually something that I would like to share with you today. So this is actually agile conference, and you know we can hear a lot of about cooperation between developers, testers, and I would like to talk about collaboration between support and developers, so something from a different perspective. I would like to show you some values that the technical support team can bring to the product development. And of course, I will base on some live examples, on the examples from my experience. So do we have actually anyone in here who work in support or used to work in support? Oh, that's great, actually. Wow, that's great. I would be interested to hear your feedback later. Okay, so let me tell you something about technical support. So technical support do not only take calls and resolve, like, reset password queries. Technical support have to, well, many times they have to make very good decisions. They have to be able to, well, to find some workarounds to customers when they report some serious issues. And to be able to do these things, they definitely have to know the product. They have to have this theoretical knowledge about the product. The other thing is, I mean, what can bring more benefits to the team is when they actually use the product. So having the theoretical knowledge is one thing, it's good, of course, but having the practical knowledge gives more benefits, because then it's much better, much easier to understand the way the product works, and of course, much easier to understand customer issues. And of course, help customers more efficient and faster. The other key thing that is, I guess, is worth to mention is that the technical support teams, customer support teams, they work with the very end users. So this is something that everyone, the business, is actually interested in. We all would like to know how the end users use the system, use the application. We all would like to get the feedback from the very end users. So if you look, you know, within the business, different businesses actually, they've got different level managers, and these managers work with customers. They speak to managers, well, to managers in the customer's environment, and they usually get feedback from them. They've got this, you know, communication between on the manager level, and I think what is important is the feedback from the very end user. And this is what I would like to discuss in this presentation. Of course, I will focus on the collaboration between technical support and developers, but this actually indicates to any other department within the business. There might be other departments that actually use the product, have the product knowledge, and can bring some values to the product development. Okay, so we know that technical support know the product, they work with end users, and they can have the practical knowledge about the product as well, not only theoretical knowledge. So what next? Well, based on that, the support team can give you some very useful information. So if you think that, if you know that they use the product, then for the business, for the developers, they are the end users as well. So from customer support perspective, their customers are the end users, but from developer perspective, if technical support team use the product, they are the end users for them. So if you think that they are the end users, then there is a very easy way to get the feedback. The feedback about the whole product, what is okay, what we can work on, what we can improve, because they use the product almost the same way as customers. They also, the support team, they receive a lot of feedback from the customers. And how they receive that? Well, I started my journey in NewVoiceMedia as technical support engineer, so I used to answer calls from customers. And trust me, customers do not only call to raise an issue. Well, that's the main reason why they call. But sometimes I felt like I'm this NewVoiceMedia priest, and you know, I run a confession. No, trust me. Sometimes, you know, there was a very easy issue, very easy query, but we had this 15 minutes or 20 minutes conversation, because they wanted to share their thoughts about the product in general. And obviously, usually this is something negative, but we shouldn't take it as a negative thing, because it's a feedback. And feedback, we cannot say that typically is negative or positive. It's just feedback. So we should just take it and share it with with the business. And there are, of course, tools that you can use or ways you can collect this feedback. Because obviously it's voice, yeah. So you know, when customers call you, they do it through the phone. So it's not that easy to capture this feedback, but there are ways to do it. Customer journey. So this is actually something similar to customer feedback. When you talk to the customers, you can understand the customer journey because they share this with you. And sometimes, because I mentioned phone calls, but it's not only phone calls. Sometimes they also mention that in the emails that they send to support.
Or even chats.
Or even chats, yes, true. It depends on what channels you have available for the customers to raise cases with technical support. Okay, and the very key thing for me, what we can share with the business is what are the most and the least problematic features. Problematic, I mean features that causes some issues to customers, are difficult to understand, or just features that do not work as customers, as we technical support expect them to work. And there are also ways how we can collect this information and share it with the business. I will talk about it more a bit later. So right now, I would like to share my experience and show you how we do it within NewVoiceMedia. So all these things, how we collect the feedback, how we actually started collecting this feedback and then sharing this feedback within the business. Obviously, I understand that we can do it in many different ways. So this is just an example that actually works for us. So if we think about collaboration between any department, then obviously the key thing is a relation. there is no good collaboration if there is no good relation between the teams. So how we can make sure that this relation is on a good level, and well, that there is any relation between the departments. So in NewVoiceMedia, how we started actually the relation, we started with some regular meetings with technical support team and developers. You can say, right, okay, but let's say that we work in the same office, so maybe I can just jump to someone and then have a chat or whatever else. True, but we have to be aware that we want to have a relation, but we want to disrupt ourselves. Yeah, we want to disrupt our work. So scheduling the regular meetings is a very good thing from my experience. And to be honest, no matter whether it is face-to-face meeting or just a video meeting, video conversation. Evelina had a very good presentation today about working remotely and some remote meetings. And I think even if you do it remotely, you still can build a relation. There are other ways to do it properly. So we started with regular Q&A sessions. So whenever we had questions like about the product, we wanted to increase our knowledge, or we didn't know how to progress certain things, we had this opportunity, we still have the opportunity to speak to developers on this scheduled calls. The other thing that we do, we actually invite technical support to the demos, but within our company we actually invite everyone. Everyone is invited to the demos. And I think it's important, and if we take technical support, why it is important? Because if, as I mentioned before, that it's good when technical support team use the product. So if they use the product and they are participating in the demo, then maybe they can share their thoughts during the demo. And this actually can have a real impact on the product development. Other point is moving forward is listen to hackathon ideas. So I think every technology company runs hackathon. No, not every. Okay, sorry for that. Well, we do. Yeah.
They should.
So,
Every company should.
Every company should. Yeah, I agree. I think it's very important to listen to all hackathon ideas, and even if sometimes it might be that an idea is not really well. I don't want to use word clever, but well, still we should give a feedback on this idea. We should do something about it. We should show that we listen to this idea. And all these things, I mean, these are just examples, and obviously we can do more and more and more. But all these things can give us this feeling of we. This is what I mentioned, and I would like to highlight this actually. The feeling of we. That's very important. No matter which department you work in, the feeling of we, the feeling that we all, play to the same goal, that we have the same objective as a business. I think that's very important. And when your teams have this feeling, when they feel that although they work in different departments, they still work together, this can only bring you some success, because they all will cooperate. People will work together, and this is what we want to achieve. So right now, I'd like to. This is actually an example of how we share some information within the business. How we call it the feedback, and how we share it within the business in our company. So the very important thing is the support tickets. I think that every company that runs support, they have to run certain reports. Some people, when we think about different reports, usually people are kind of negative to the reports. Like, okay, that's data. We have to collect the data. We're going to be a big corporate. Someone's going to measure our work. And actually, when I was a technical support engineer, I used to think the same way. So when someone told me, well, we have to create some reporting, so we need this report, we need to have more data. And I was like, yeah, okay, someone's going to check on me, check how I work, what I do, and so on and so on. But later, when I actually became a team leader, I started looking at the bigger picture. And then I realized that actually reports are not to control our work, not to control people. But maybe some companies do it, yeah, well. But mostly it is about having the data to help the business to grow, help people to grow. But going back to the point, we can have, most technical support teams, they have the reports, and they should, or they do, or if not, then they should categorize the issues. Yeah? So how we do it, basically, whenever there is a new case, there is a new ticket, we're going to support when we receive something new. Engineers have to specify the issue category. And later, based on that, we can say what kind of issues we receive the most. What are the most problematic features? And actually, you can later play with this report, because you can not only show what is the most, let's say, problematic feature, but you can say, for example, to mention most versus least problematic, most and least affected regions. So we can specify by regions, for example. We can have a feature, and one feature can work well for one region, but not really well for the second region. And there might be just a different mindset. People can have different mindset, and that's all. And with this simple data, I would say, you can somehow find this information. So you can also create reports on bugs. So the technical support team, they are the people who locate the bugs within the system or application, and they speak to developers. They actually provide information on these bugs, and again, this is from cases, so we can have reports on that. We can see what well, maybe not really what, but when we had these bugs, when we found them. Maybe that always happened after a release, for example. Yeah, we can. I guess that the reports are a very powerful tool, and we can use it in many different ways. So, moving forward, I'd like to also share with you what else you can achieve, or what else you can do together with technical support as developers, product owners, testers. So, if your team, if your technical support team use the product, then obviously whenever you've got some pilot features, this feature should be enabled for the team first. So they can play with it, so they can test it in live environment, so they can tell you their feedback. And that's very important, because first of all, if you enable the pilot features to the support team, then they, well, a part of the theoretical knowledge, again, they can practice. So they have this practical knowledge. So before the feature turn to be a global available, then the guys in support have enough knowledge to support it. And before you make it a global available, you can be sure that you receive the proper feedback from the end users, because obviously they are the end users, and you could do your best to make it as clean of box as possible, if I can say that. Right. So another point is user testing. So we talked about pilot features, we talked about demos, but what else support team can help you with? Even if they don't use the product, they can do the user testing. They can help you with the user testing. If they use the product, then it's even better, because obviously they know the product, and they can, on the user testing, they can, if there's, for example, a new feature, they can tell you whether this feature really fits into the current product. Yeah, so they have this mindset. They can they use it. Yeah, they use the product, so they can very easily tell you how they see it, how customers can see this, and I think that's very, very important. Well, I think I did it actually very fast. I didn't expect it to be that quick, actually. So right now I'm just thinking, maybe do you because we have a lot of developers in here and testers, do you actually cooperate with support? How many people cooperate with support, collaborate with support currently?
Try.
Okay. Well,
Sunday go fast.
I can give you one example that we had. I mean, that was actually the very first example with user testing that we did within the company. So first of all, from our perspective, from support perspective, it gave us a lot of fun, because that was fun. And we could see everything from the back end. I think we started from the planning of the feature. That was the very first part. So we had this conversation with developers and product owner about the new feature. We wanted to do something very big. We wanted to make a very big change, and developers involved support into the conversation to discuss how this can look, what would work for us as support, as end users, and for customers. And we actually had a very good success, I would say. So first of all, the business found benefits from that, and we as well, because as I mentioned, we had really good fun. So how many of you think that working with support, I mean, do you think now that working with support could bring benefits within your businesses? Do you think that? Okay. Do you have any questions, maybe? Okay, Piotr, yes.
So you said about inviting customer support to demos or sessions with development, which is great, but I can imagine you want to be able to get everyone around. You're only going to be able to send maybe some team leaders, maybe some units. How do you then make sure that knowledge gets kind of populated across the entire customer support team?
So within our support team, we have knowledge sharing sessions every week. Sometimes we cannot do it every week. Obviously, it all depends on the workload and the current issues. However, we do have regular sessions, and then we share the knowledge there. Thanks.
How did you deal with the situation when the customer is reporting a problem and this is a bug, and there might be the situation, let's say, and I think it happens pretty often, that of course every customer is thinking that his issue and his ticket is the most important ever, and the development has 500 with priority, blah blah blah, And you face the situation when something, let's say the customer is asking you every second day, how is the status, what is the status, when I can get the solution, and the developers think, hey, we have 100,000 things to do, this is somewhere over the rainbow, and yeah, how to deal with it, because you have to be, like, let's say you have to provide to the customer the good services, on the other hand, this is your team, this is your dev, and you know that, one colleague told me, if you keep asking me, then it will be taking longer, so how to deal with it? How to deal with it?
Well, that's a very good question, actually, and we actually...
Hire more developers.
Yeah, hire more developers, yeah, true. No, to be honest, obviously it all depends on the issue and on the scope of the issue. So first of all, it's very important to measure the scope and prioritize the bugs accordingly. So within our environment, how we do it, we actually, we have our Tier 2 team, and they prioritize bugs with developers. They prioritize bugs to developers, actually. But if there is something that would need to wait to be fixed, then we bet on transparency. So being transparent with customers, I think that's the most important thing, and this is how we do it. We say to customer that this has been accepted, but it may take time. We don't set up like unrealistic ETAs, and customers appreciate that. I can tell you. Maybe it
If
depends.
you would appreciate, I would have asked this question.
Okay. Well, this is how we do it. For us, this works actually.
This is how I also do it.
Okay.
I thought maybe it's a magical better way.
Well, finding best separate workaround also very often helps. So find whatever
If it
workaround,
exists.
If it
and
exists.
then be honest with them. If you can't prioritize it, or you know that you won't be able to fix it quickly, then you just have to tell them that. Unfortunately, because of other priorities, you won't be able to address this problem immediately or anytime soon. But for now, please follow this workaround. And we are really sorry we can't help you with this one. We have to be honest.
That used to be a Tier 2 engineer.
Yeah, so I used to tell that a lot. So I know this by heart.
So it's not a question actually, it's not
Okay.
wasn't kind of thing. So because during the presentation you've mentioned these reports and the issues raised by the customers. One of the things that I really like about this kind of collaboration is that you've got the knowledge about things that are not technically bugs, and we in development we tend to only problems that break system we call bugs, and then we've got the processes around this, we've got some ways of maintaining this kind of situations. But as well, what are from the user experience perspective, what are the really weak places, weak paths for the software, what is not very understood by the customers. And you cannot create a bug bug ticket for like customers usually don't understand this drop down because it's not a bug technically. So I think that we as the developers, we tend to somehow infect the language we use. That bug is something that doesn't work in technical terms, but for the customer, I cannot finish my work before 5 p.m. Everything is a bug. I don't care if it's a new feature, it's an enhancement, it's something I don't understand, it's a UX flow or whatever it is. For me, it's not working. And I think that one of the areas that we can benefit from technical support is understanding how people use it in terms of user experience and not only focus on bugs.
Sure. I think there are some tools that you can use to measure the user experience, but the real information from the real user, that's very important. And this is what you can get from the technical support team. And yeah, as I mentioned, when they call us, they don't only raise issues. They want to talk, and they talk about their experience with the product, and that's important. That's important for the business. And it's important to catch this feedback and then share it internally. So later, this can give you opportunity to improve the product and make it much more easier to understand, to navigate for the end users, for the customers. Thank you.
There's a question with regards to what Ashley said about the airplane where different crew members assume different positions, or not even crew members, but generally passengers. There's a team, and everybody can simply do anything really just to a better goal, to achieve that particular goal. So I was thinking, do you think it would be a good idea, just following that agile sort of framework thinking, do you think it would be a good idea to take every new developer that joins the company and put them for a month at a support position, so they work along any other support team members, they take calls, work on cases, just for them to understand how it is to work at a support, so they can maybe later on anticipate when they develop what actually could go wrong.
Before you answer, I would add to it once a year for a week, not for just at the beginning.
Not once. Okay.
Yeah, once. It should be repetitive.
That's even a better idea.
And then I'm all listening now.
I wouldn't say that the amount, is
2 months. Quarter.
Yeah,
I was reading a quarter at the beginning.
I think it's good to find the proper balance, but that's definitely something that can bring benefits to both support and developers, also this again can help to build the relation and maintain the relation. So, and actually we had this discussion, and it's something that we would like to introduce.
But it's not in motion yet. Well, so you're definitely in favor, right?
Oh yes, yes.
So a quarter or a month?
A year.
We test it out, and the next year we can do support and dev pairing.
Isn't it more important to focus on the we, like you said, rather than the roles? If we're working well together, does it matter if I spend a month operating as a support engineer? I'd be willing to do that, but I think you were right in highlighting that collaboration.
Sure.
Over and above.
I think because thinking about working as a support engineer, actually you can do it in a few different ways. It doesn't have to be like a developer sits and answer calls, but at least shadow. Well, you don't have to do it to have good collaboration, but if you do it, then you can have a better understanding. You can understand better how customers report the issue, and maybe this can bring some ideas because developers you've got different mindsets, and you're probably more precise. Then you can think about ideas how you can collect the feedback that they share with customer support engineers.
And another thing is, Paul, that we always complain that we do not have access to the customers and we don't hear the feedback from the customers.
So right, the door.
This is a way to do it. It's going to support.
It needs to be sustainable. That's that collaboration. You need to have a way to do it every day rather than once a year.
No, definitely. So
I do agree. I'm not challenging the idea of swapping an experience share. I think it's important.
Definitely. So it's just a one way. I mean, one of the ways you can do, and you can work on the collaboration. But of course, regular meetings, knowledge sharing sessions between developers and support. This also things outside of work. Doing some events together. Enjoying the free time together can bring a lots of values.
I had a similar question. Could we be doing more when we're thinking about new features and designing things? Think more about how do we actually then support them with WAD? Is there more tools, information? I don't know what else could we be doing to make supporting new features easier?
So if I understand the question correctly, during designing the new features, if you, for example, invite some the technical support engineers into this design project, then they can share, right away their thoughts about it. I mean, from the customer perspective. So this can bring some values, and right away it can later reduce. I guess reduce the support tickets that reduce the questions from customers, because the support team guys they actually think as a customer. Usually, how they work, they have to think as a customer, especially when they work on customers issues. They have to think as customers. So the same when you design a feature and you invite them, they by thinking as a customer, they can tell you what things customers would like or what they would like to have, for example, and then this reduces the questions from customers. I hope that was a question.
Well, it's partly that, but also thinking about is there some sort of maybe more information you could be giving you about sort of how people are using the feature or particular errors that are coming up.
Or what was the idea behind creating a use case when creating a feature?
I haven't thought about that. That's useful.
Yeah, because very often certain features are created with a particular use case in mind, but later on, of course, our clever customers find using those features in a completely different way. And of course, knowing the original idea in mind would be helpful, because whenever we get that query, we can at least tell them that, okay, originally, that was the idea behind creating this. Okay, I can see you found different use case to it, but then I would have to check if it can work that way. But knowing that use case would be helpful indeed.
Thank you.
So if you would like to build in a new organization that close working relation between customer support and DevOps and technology, do you think it's needed to come from the top? Do you think that the organization has to say you have to cooperate, or how would you approach it? Or would you just go to people? Because obviously you've got a long list of stuff you need to do, and spending time with developers won't help. Developers and testers have probably longer list of stuff to do, and you coming in and moaning probably won't help them either. So how would you do it in a systematic way?
So first of all, it should be kind of a natural thing. I don't think that when it comes from the top, when someone put the pressure on you that you have to collaborate, then this is not going to really work. I think it's it should start from when you create a team, then first of all you have to look for the right people that are open to collaborate, to work as a team, and then this just comes as a natural thing.
I think your question, there's one assumption inside, and this is the problem, I suppose, that if you've got all the people scheduled for 100% of the capacity, then no process will help, because there's no space for any actual collaboration and actual co-working, because you're full in your capacity.
Yeah. So from if you think from the top level, then of course the business should leave some space to everyone. So people have time to collaborate. That's very important. Okay.
Customer support, do you ever actually get any positive feedback that you can share?
Yeah, I was wondering.
Because it's also kind of negative. like you only collaborate when something goes wrong. Is there any opportunity
Well,
to collaborate when
nobody
something goes
calls support and says, "Hi, I just wanted to."
Yeah, that's
to really
it.
thank you."
I mean, the product is, I'm very surprised actually, because it happened a few times that we receive positive feedback from customers on a call. Because usually when they give positive feedback, it happens, but it happens through emails. But yeah, I had it a few times in my career that actually on a call, customers said that, you know what, I really love the product. It's amazing, and I love the support. And it happened, you know, actually not more than a few times.
But it's not that they just call just to tell you that.
No. Of course, you know, when they call, they have an issue. So
Yeah, but still a bit of positive aspect in there, like not all
Yes.
negativity,
it
right?
happens. And it's something that we really like. Yeah, we really, you know, and we promote that, of course.
Actually, I think we've got really good scores when it comes to feedback from customers, right? When it comes to those happy faces and surveys after cases. So maybe you can tell us a bit about that.
Well, yeah, there is a way that you can collect feedback about, you know, how you do, and actually about the system as well. You can have a survey after a case. A simple thing. You send it to a customer when the case is resolved or not. No matter whether it's resolved or not, you send it to the customer, and they can share their thoughts. So it's one of the ways that we can collect feedback about how we do and about the product as well.
So moving forward, like when you get this positive feedback, do you share it with your developers?
The positive feedback, and we share it with the whole business actually, and we have the positive feedback. We do it like once a month. We share the report with the positive feedback. Okay, so maybe just to quickly summarize, I'm hoping that you found this presentation useful. I'm very happy that we had this conversation after the presentation, and few things I would like to highlight and ask you to maybe think about. So if you work with support teams, or if you have support teams within your environment, well, check if they use the product. Check if they know the product, if they use it, and maybe try to start a conversation and see if the values I showed today, if they can bring them to your businesses. So values like the customer feedback, their feedback, some reports like with most problematic and least problematic features. So yeah, treat your support teams as doors to your customers. That's the key thing. Okay, thank you very much.